Hey guys, Jared here, welcome back to Architect, and today we're going to be working on implementing our design that we built 2 days ago now because I said I would stick to a schedule, but it was a bit tough and things came up. Anyway, I'm going to try my best. I said no promises at the beginning of this. And also, just to clarify a couple things with people, I'm expecting to build this whole application using Xcode Swift with Firebase as our backend so that we can actually download or stream music from Firebase. That is my plan, at least. We'll see how it turns out. And also, to clarify everything, we're going to be coding everything. We're not going to be using Storyboard. I've just grown away from Storyboard. Using larger projects, it just makes a lot more sense to use code in a lot of things. But yeah, today we're going to go ahead and get started on the design of everything. So we're going to go ahead, open up Xcode, and create a new Xcode project since we're starting a new. This will be single view application, product name. I'll go ahead and call this music app and click next. All right, create. On the desktop, why not? It's messy as it is. So to get us started, I guess we need to go ahead and create these 3 views that we already designed. So we have the home screen, the pause play, and the about. For our home screen here, we're going to go ahead and make this a table view controller. So I've got a table view here. I'm going to go ahead, make this the initial view controller, and then we'll set this up with some cells. So I'm going to go ahead and say File, New, File, in which we're going to go ahead and create a Swift file. I'll go ahead and call this my music table view cell. And then we'll start from scratch here. So go ahead and import UI kit. And we'll go ahead, start with the foundation class. We call this a music table view cell of a UI table view cell, in which we'll go ahead and implement the init, super.init, with the style and the reuse identifier. So for the cell, we just need an image view, a label, and a text view, and then a little button to hold the 3 dots. Pretty simple stuff. So we're going to go ahead and create that. For my image view, I'll call this my var main image view, UI image view. Will be equal to open close brackets. And inside of here, we want to return a UI image view. It looks like I programmed that wrong. There we go. Okay, var image view will be equal to a UI image view, open close parentheses. Then we'll return the image view, and then image view dot translates auto resizing mask into constraints will be equal to false. Now we need to go ahead and create the label. I'll call it var. Since we're sticking with main label, and we'll do the same for our text view. And then finally, we'll create a more button. And now we need to go ahead into our layout subviews and build the constraints with the cell around it. So we'll do that. We also need to add this required initializer. There we go. Let's put this right above that. All right, so we got our layout subviews. First off, we need to go ahead and add these into our cell. So we'll say self.add subview, in which we'll just work our way down, main image view. All right, so now we have those added into our subview. Now we need to add the constraints. So main image view, the constraints are just going to be main image view dot left anchor dot constraint will be equal to, and generally to the side, I like to have it as a constant of like 10 pixels away from whatever siding we're doing. That's just my personal preference, but you can mix it around. I think this is a pretty big sizing right there, so we'll worry about that. Equal to, let's say, self.leftAnchor.isActive will be equal to true. Main image view dot top anchor dot constraint will be equal to self.top anchor. And I'm getting rid of like the constants right now, mainly because it's auto-correcting it to not have the constant. But I'll go back and just copy and paste it in there because all of these are going to have 10 as a differentiation. So main image view dot bottom anchor dot constraint will be equal to self dot bottom anchor is active will be equal to true. And that's that for our main image view currently. Oh wait, we also need to set the width. So the width is going to be the exact same size as the height because it's just going to be a perfect square. So we're just going to say main image view dot width anchor dot constraint will be equal to our self dot main image view dot height anchor. and then isActive will be equal to true. So that's just going to go ahead and maintain that aspect ratio. Cool. Now as for our label, it's going to go to the right of the image view, so we'll work from there. So I'm going to say my main label.leftAnchor.constraint will be equal to my main image view.leftAnchor. And then .isActive will be equal to true. Main label.topAnchor.constraint will be equal to, and what you can see right here is I pretty much attached it to the top of my main image view. So this will be my main image view.topAnchor. .isActive will be equal to true. And then I think we just need to get main label.heightAnchor.constraint will be equal to a constant variable. And so the really nice thing about working with Sketch is you can always refer back to your elements here and see what the size of them actually are. So if you look at like this believer here, it's attached to the top of the label, and we see that the font size is 17, and we see that our height is 21. And so that is perfectly in line with whatever we're working with in our application, which is very nice. So we might just go ahead and set the constant to 21. We can of course play around with that number as we go along, but I think it looks good here, and it should transfer over properly. Oh, and another thing I forgot to mention is the main label.rightAnchor.constraint will be equal to our more button left anchor. isActive will be equal to true. Now it's time to add text view. So now we'll go ahead and say text view left anchor constraint will be equal to our main image view right anchor isActive will be equal to true. Oh, and I just realized that with our main label here, this should be to the right anchor of our main image view. Okay, so now we can say text view bottom anchor constraint will be equal to that of my self.bottom anchor isActive will be equal to true. Let's see, this is attached to the top anchor here, so we need to do that as well. So text view top anchor constraint will be equal to let's say our main label bottom anchor, and then finally we're just going to have a right anchor on this, so text view right anchor constraint will be equal to our self.right anchor isActive will be equal to true. Okay, so now that's everything except for the more button, so finally let's handle that. More button right anchor constraint will be equal to self.right anchor, and then isActive will be equal to true. More button top anchor constraint will be equal to our self.top anchor isActive will be equal to true. Now it's already set to be to the right of the main label, so we don't need to worry about that. We do need to worry about the height and the width of it though. So let's see. Let's go ahead and take these and make a new symbol out of them, and we'll call these the more symbol, I guess. It has a width of 24 and a height of 6. Now, when you're programming your application, you're not wanting to have a button that is the size of 6 because that is just unclickable. So what you would really want to do is take this and kind of stretch it out a little bit to maybe the size of the label, if not bigger. The bigger that is, the more interaction people will feel when clicking it. So keep that in mind as you're going along here. Do not make it 6. But we do have this more button, so I'm going to go ahead and export this image real quick to iOS. It does it at 1x, 2x, and 3x already for you. Since it's already sized for a UI table view cell as well, it should export properly. But yeah, let's go ahead and export the more button. I'll export it to the desktop and we'll just import it in immediately. So we'll go over here to my assets.exe assets, and we'll just drag those right in there. Boom, we got our more button. Now something else to note here is with this more button, we do not want this to be a scale to fill, otherwise it'll stretch as we go along. So we need to mess with the content mode of our button as well. So we'll do that right now actually. So before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and say button.content mode will be equal to .scale aspect fit. And that's going to make sure that it's centered in the middle of the button, but it's going to have this exact perfect size. essentially. Now this is also making me think that I want the button to be a little bit more like this. That way it takes up like the corner of the cell. And I think that's a good look as we program our constraints. So with our top anchor here, instead of maybe making it to our self.mainLabel.top anchor, let's just go ahead and set that to our self.top anchor. And then we also need a bottom anchor as well. So I'm going to say more button.bottom anchor dot constraint will be equal to, and we're going to make it equal to like the top of our text view here. So we'll go ahead and say self.textView.top anchor and then active. All right, so now we have the cell built, and this is where we start adding the extra features, such as like these colors or this image or the shadowing or the corners, all of that stuff. We do that after the initial building. That's how I always do things. You just want to get things in there and working, and then you worry about the nitpicky stuff a little bit later. So something else that came to my mind is corner radius, and we also want to have shadows in the background. That requires two views, one for the shadowing and then one for the corner radius. So we'll go ahead and say var image view background colon UI view will be equal to, open close curly brackets, in which I'm going to go ahead and say var view will be equal to a UI view, open close. Then we'll return that view, and then view.translates auto resizing mask into constraints will be equal to false. Now with this, we'll also want to add some shadowing, but we'll worry about that in just a minute. We're just getting the components set up. But this also means for where we say self.addSubView main image view, we just need to delete that, and we would really want to add the main image view into our image view background first, which also means that these constraints that we applied down here now apply to the image view background. Let's go ahead and say find main image view dot, and then replace that with our image view background dot. And so we'll go ahead and say self.imageViewBackground.addSubView, and this will be our image view, or our main image view right here. And then we'll say self.addSubView, our image view background. But now this also means we need to set up the constraints for our main image view so that it fits our image view background. So we'll go ahead and say main image view.leftAnchor.constraint will be equal to our image view background dot left anchor dot is active will be equal to true, and then we'll just copy and paste all this because we just want it to be conforming directly with the left, the right, top, and bottom. Right. Okay, so now we have it, so constraints are all set up for everything, I think, now, hopefully. But we can go ahead and start adding the little details. But we do want to go into this and grab our album art, put that into our assets, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so now we want to go into our music table view cell.swift. Okay, so for our image view, I'm going to go ahead and say image view.image will be equal to, and I believe we have our background. Let's just type in image literal. That should bring up our options. There we go. So the same is also true for our button. So we say button dot image view dot image will be equal to, let's go ahead and put in our image literal. This time we'll select the more button. Perfect. Let's go ahead and set the text view dot text color will be equal to a UI color dot light gray. Our main label, we want to set the font differently, so I'm going to say dot font will be equal to a UI font dot system font of size. And then we have the size over here, so the size is going to be 17. And then it's already default black, but if you want to mess around with that, you can. Also for our text view, our size is 12. So text view dot font will be equal to a UI font dot system font of size, and we'll just make it 12. These are all default fonts. If you want to mess around with your own custom fonts, you can, but I'm good. And then I think the rest is pretty good. So let's go ahead and save that. Go back over to our viewController.swift, and let's go ahead and switch this over to a table view controller. I want to see how this looks before we close this video. So I'm going to go ahead and say So we've got everything set up for it's a table view controller now. Let's connect this with our storyboard. So this is going to be table view controller connected. Head back over here. Now for our view to load here, we need to first register the cell. So I'm going to say self.tableview.register, and we're going to register our music table view cell, and then of course dot self for the cell reuse identifier of, let's say, music table view cell. Now we'll go ahead and set this up with a couple things. So I'm going to go ahead and add a generic thing right now, and I'll say var music will be equal to an array of strings. And then we just need to add the normal table view stuff. So we need to say cell for row at index path, number of rows in section, and that's pretty much it. So now we'll go ahead and return our music dot count. And for our table view here, we're going to go ahead and say let cell equal table view dot DQ reusable cell with identifier, and we'll use the identifier of music table view cell, and we'll return this cell, and we want to make sure that this knows that this is going to be a music table view cell. Now for the height of our table view cell, I like the look of the size that we have going on currently. Maybe a tad bit smaller might look good, so let's put it at like 120. So we also need to implement that in there. Say height for row at index path, and let's return 120. Okay, so I think we're good to build and run this. Let's do that. All right, and we get nothing. Yes. All right. Okay, I'm just kidding. All right, so the reason we got nothing is I knew I forgot something. We need to say music will be equal to, and let's just put in. Alright, so now we have some music inside of that, and it should finally load up our table view cells properly. Now another thing, okay, to a certain extent is proper. Oh, that's right, we forgot to add the constants, so let's go back and do that real quick. Alright, so now to add the constants, we need to go ahead and create a variable. I'm going to say this is my spacing constant, and I'll set that equal to 10. And we'll play around with that as we go along with it, but our main image view, we don't need to mess around with any of these, but our image view background, we need to go ahead and say comma constant will be equal to our spacing constant, and we'll just kind of copy and paste this as we go along and making changes. Top anchor, same. Bottom anchor, we actually need to make this negative spacing constant. Oh, and also it thinks this is an integer. Go ahead and switch this to a CG float, and that should fix that. Boom. All right, now onto the main label. Left anchor, bam. Top anchor, no need for it. Right anchor, we want there to be a slight spacing between the end of the label and the more button. I believe this is going to be a negative here, but we'll mess around with that if it's different than I think. Our text view left anchor, go ahead and add that. Our bottom anchor, we're actually going to switch this. This should be our image view background dot bottom anchor. That way it's just connected with the image view background. Makes sense. Then for our top anchor here, it's already connected, but I think we need to have a little bit of I think we need to have some sort of spacing going on. I think 10 might be a little bit too much, so I'm just gonna maybe switch this to like 5. We'll see. Right anchor, constant, and then we'll just make this -10. Now for our more button, you can see that there's some spacing between this and the end of the screen. I'm gonna go ahead and say more button right anchor will be a negative spacing constant. Top anchor, no differentiation. We want it to be directly at the top so that our clicks definitely will generate. If that makes sense. And then for the bottom anchor here, again, no changes there. Okay, so now we should have those working. But also, another thing that we want to do is add some corner radius to our image view. Why not? Let's do that right now. And also, I'll just put this out there. We're doing everything inside of layout subviews, because if you did this in your initializer, it would be called when you register the cell and not when you are presenting your cell. When you are presenting your cell, that's going to be in layout subviews. Just something to keep note of. But again, we want to go ahead and say main image view dot layer dot corner radius, and I'll go ahead and set this equal to, what did we set our corner radius to? 3. I might make that a bit bigger. I might make it like 5. Yeah, that looks a little bit more prominent. So I'll set that equal to 5. And then also with our main image view, we want to make sure that the image doesn't overflow. So I'm going to go ahead and say image view dot clips to bounds will be equal to true. Whereas with our view up here, this is going to be equal to false. So view.clips to bounds will be equal to false. And we'll work on shadowing tomorrow. But yeah. All right, so now let's add some information into this real quick, just to get a feel for how things are. So I'll grab this text here. Another thing with our text view, I'm going to say textView.text will be equal to that text here. Put some quotation marks around that. And then we also want to say textView.is editable will be equal to false. Is user interaction enabled will be equal to false as well. Those might be one and the same, but why not? For our label, label.text will be equal to believer. Now we don't have our more buttons showing up, so that's a little bit concerning. Interesting. Why isn't that showing up? Oh, that's right. I always forget, with buttons you always need to say .set image, and then this is going to be more with the control state of normal. Boom. And then that also goes for, yeah, that's it. Okay, so we can actually delete this part here. It's one of those little things that just messes you up because I'm so used to working with like labels and whatnot that you can just set the image. But no, there you go. We got our more button. We got that showing up. Let's take care of that blue color. I think it needs to be a little bit more on the width here. So I'm going to say like 34. Let's see how that looks. Might be too big now. No, that looks good. Okay, cool. Okay, so one thing I definitely notice is this is the normal font, and then this is a light font. So I definitely like the lighter a lot more, so I'll change that real quick. So we'll say weight, and then we'll say this is .light. And there you have it. I like that a lot better. Now another thing you'll notice is the text view automatically adds some indentation to your view. I'll go over how to fix that tomorrow. I will also go over shadowing and other things, and then we'll hopefully get into creating that view. This definitely took longer than I thought it was going to be. Everything takes longer than what you think it's going to be. That's how it always works. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It was a lot of tedious work today, but I hope to get into more of the exciting stuff in the days to come. This is just a lot of setting up constraints, setting up our views, but it's very important stuff. You got to know how to do this stuff fast and easy, especially if you're coding it all. And hopefully I told you my methods, and hopefully they helped a little bit. Anyway, have a wonderful day or night. It's nighttime for me now, but I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm going to try and be on the every weekday schedule again. All right.